The world is currently fighting two wars, one in the Middle East and one between Russia and Ukraine. On Russia and Ukraine, the UNSC has been able to adopt one resolution calling for a swift end to the conflict and lasting peace. On US and Iran, one resolution has been passed on March 11, condemning Iranian attacks on Gulf neighbors and commercial shipping. But the fact that UNSC has failed to bring peace in Middle East and Russia-Ukraine is known. India has officially launched now its campaign for a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council for the 2028-29 term. India's campaign was launched by External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar at the UN headquarters in New York. While its immediate objective is to secure election to the Security Council in June 2027, New Delhi's broader strategic goal remains unchanged: to win a permanent seat in a reformed Security Council that reflects the geopolitical realities of the 21st century rather than the world order shaped in the aftermath of the Second World War. India's vision for UNSC is called Shanti, securing holistic advancement through norms, trust. This is a philosophy rooted in dialogue, peaceful coexistence, respect for sovereignty, and inclusive development. India says that its vision is not about military blocs or geopolitical confrontation, but about building consensus, strengthening multilateralism, and ensuring that developing countries have a greater voice in decisions that affect global peace and security. The UNSC has 5 permanent members: United States, Russia, China, France, and the United Kingdom. All the above nations are granted special veto power, allowing them to block any substantive resolution regardless of its level of support among other members. Let's in fact listen into the statement.
लगातार सबसे अधिक अपने सैनिक भेज करके दुनिया में शांति के लिए अपनी पूरी ताकत खपा देता है, और ये दूसरी तरफ दुनिया हमें क्या देती है? शांति का झंडा उठा करके चलने वाला ये देश, शांति के लिए जीने मरने वाला ये देश, यूनाइटेड नेशन में सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल में सीट पाने के लिए तरस रहा है। दुनिया से मैं आग्रह करूंगा कि आज जब विश्व प्रथम विश्व युद्ध की शताब्दी में गुजर रहा है, तब ये अवसर है शांति दूतों के सम्मान का। ये अवसर है गांधी और बुद्ध की भूमि को उसका हक देने का। वो दिन चले गए जब हिंदुस्तान भीख मांगेगा, यह देश अपना हक मांगता है।
Well, as the Prime Minister rightfully defined it 10 years ago, India cannot be left out of the UNSC. China has repeatedly used technical holds on India's efforts to designate Pakistan-based terrorists under UNSC's Sanctions Committee. Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar's designation was blocked 4 times. Abdul Rauf Asgar's designation was blocked. Same with Tala Saeed, Shahid Mahmood and Sajid Mir. India has not only sought reform, it has contributed to the United Nations like few others. Since 1948, more than 3 lakh Indian peacekeepers have served over 50 UN peacekeeping missions across Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. India remains the largest cumulative troop contributors in UN history. More than 180 Indian peacekeepers have lost their lives while serving under the UN flag, one of the highest sacrifices made by any country. Indian forces have also served in missions in Congo, in Lebanon, in South Sudan, in Somalia, Cambodia, and many other conflict zones, unlike several previous campaigns in which India secured broad consensus within its regional grouping. The upcoming election is expected to be significantly more competitive. The Asia-Pacific group has only one non-permanent seat available for the 2028-29 term, and India will face Tajikistan in a direct contest. New Delhi enters the race with publicly known support from several partners including the United States, Austria, Fiji and Sri Lanka. Tajikistan, however, is expected to benefit from the support across the 57-member Organization of Islamic Cooperation, or the OIC, making the Asia-Pacific contest one of the most closely watched races in the upcoming election cycle. India firmly believes that the reforms in the United Nations Security Council can no longer be delayed. If elected, India would then return to the Security Council for the 9th time. The country previously served as a non-permanent member during 1950-51, 67-68, 1972-73, 1977-78, 1984-85, 1991-92, 2011-2012, and most recently during the 2021-22 term. While another 2-year tenure would allow India to participate directly in deliberations on international peace and security, the campaign also serves a broader purpose by keeping the debate on Security Council reform firmly on the international agenda. This is the video India has released to put forth its candidature.
Guided by Shanti, India's candidature for 2028 to 2029 rests on 6 priorities. 3/4 of humanity lives in the global south. India makes sure they are heard and that their priorities shape the global agenda. As the world changes, its institutions must change with it. India works to reform them from within and to bridge divides. Nearly 300,000 Indians have served under the UN flag. India is shaping the peacekeeping of the future, and it is led increasingly by its women. Artificial intelligence must serve humanity, not endanger it. India leads the call to guard against the misuse of AI, keeping it human-centric, inclusive, and safe by design. Development, security, and prosperity flow through the seas. India stands for a free, open, and rules-based maritime order, and is first to respond when the ocean turns turbulent. Terrorism knows no border. Neither does India's resolve to choke the money that fuels it.
Well, let's take this discussion forward with Ambassador Gauri Shankar Gupta, who's a former diplomat, who's also joining us on this broadcast. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for your time. We appreciate it. A very good evening to you, sir. I want to understand, sir, obviously this is India's bid. If India does get elected, sir, in this fractured world, do you believe that we'll be able to make sure that there is peace in the international world?
Good evening, Shivani. This is a very important question which you are asking. You know, for the last more than 2 decades, the world has been fighting for reform of the UN Security Council. The UN Security Council was formed in 1945 soon after the Second World War. And the same power structure continues till today, despite tremendous changes the world over. India today is the largest, country in terms of population, 7th largest in terms of territory, oldest in terms of civilization, and the most important in terms of contributing to the peace missions of United Nations. Despite all that, our claim to UN permanent seat has been ignored, It has been accepted by many nations, but I think sometimes China, sometimes US have been putting their, hurdles on the way. As of now, it is the Chinese government which is putting some technical issues and not allowing it to happen. It is time that the world recognizes the importance of India and particularly the global south so that the peace could be established around the world. And this is the theme of our election campaign for the temporary seat for 2 years, 28-29. The peace around the world, the prosperity and the global order and control over terrorism, these are the four important issues which have been projected by India in the launching campaign. Unfortunately, some of these countries they go by religious denominations rather than the peace around the world. So the OIC has sponsored the candidate of Tajikistan, but I don't think all the OIC members will vote for them. Tajikistan is a very weak state. They will not be able to raise any issues concerning the global south. Their voice would be very very meek and very insignificant in the UN Security Council. And therefore, I think the countries of the world will recognize that India is the right country to represent the global south in the UN Security Council. So I'm sure this election, though it would be competitive, but India will emerge as a victorious country for this. But this would be a temporary victory. We have to continue our campaign for reform of the UN Security Council and acceptance of India as a permanent member at the UN Security Council so that India can play a rightful role in the global peace and prosperity. This is what I hope, and India deserves this, as PM himself mentioned, and I know that more than 300,000 soldiers have gone around the world in 52 peace missions. This is the largest contingent of any nation which has contributed to the peace missions of the United Nations. And we are also, very, very active in making consensus on global issues. And the two ongoing wars need some solution, and India can play a very important role in this process. And therefore, the global nations should come together and support India both for this 2-year term as well as subsequently for permanent seat at the UN.
All right.
Over to you, Shivani.
All right. Thank you so much, Ambassador Gupta, for your valuable perspective on this issue.
एक बात समझ लीजिए, न बीमारी दुनिया से कहीं जाने वाली